leadership and kind of force them to take the issue in the direction it needs to go. So that is a powerful Rules Committee chairman. I'm not saying this is or isn't happening, but a powerful Rules Committee chairman can do a lot to either advance conservative principles or to hinder conservative principles.
Quick question. Quick here. He has mentioned in some of his talks before that one of his jobs as Rules Committee chairman is if he sees something that is blatantly unconstitutional, he has the right to simply never bring it to the floor. This particularly came up with some of the Second Amendment issues. Would you agree with this interpretation?
It is accurate that the Rules Committee chairman can keep legislation from going to the floor if, for essentially whatever reason they deem. They can just decide they don't like the name of the bill and not allow it to go forward in a lot of respects. They exercise a huge amount of power, which is why that position is so important. So yes, if something's unconstitutional, the Rules Committee chairman could stop it from moving to the floor. Now, the Rules Committee chairman might be replaced, and they might call for it, or they could use a discharge petition or a whole bunch of other methods to get it back. But yes, essentially, yes, the Rules Committee chairman could.
Thank you.
Did Pete Sessions agree to come tonight?
No. We asked
I understand
several times.
I just want to make sure so that we have an evaluation.
No, he didn't. We asked him, and each time he said his schedule wouldn't allow him to speak.
Great. Okay, well, without further ado, we have three topics: Benghazi, defending Obamacare, and illegal immigration and amnesty. I think let's have Scott, if you would come up here and address Benghazi, and then I think that Ken is going to have a few remarks on Benghazi, and then we'll open it up. By the way, we've had this cell phone. Look like any of yours? Look at all those people reaching into their pockets. All right, well, if anybody finds out during the course of the evening that they're missing a cell phone, it's up here. This is an AT&T Pantech phone. You? And the lucky winner is? There you go.
We have a winner. Name is Scott Franklin. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. To address the question a moment ago with some specificity about the invitation to Pete and members of his staff, there are several of us in the room, but I in particular made no fewer than 3 calls. Having talked to Pete's staff, I know Pete. I feel comfortable with him and his staff, and explained why we thought it was important that he would attend a town hall meeting of his time, his choosing, his location, and we would have been happy to accommodate that. But given the assault under which we believe the rule of law currently stands, we thought it was kind of important that he would be here. And I was advised that he would not be holding a town hall meeting out of consideration for the parents of back-to-school children, because I can't make this stuff up, okay? I can't make this up. And so when you tried to pin him down between when's the back-to-school date and when does he go back to Washington and Candy or Willie, the answer was still no. Now, I have some mixed feelings about being here with any purpose of ridicule for Pete. What I'd like to do is present some facts as I see them. I've come to know the congressman really only since I became focused on political issues intently, which began April the 15th of 2009. Many of you I know were there that day downtown at City Hall. But I will say that in fairness to Pete and all that we may want to offer as criticism, that he has made himself available. He's been available to no fewer than 4 Tea Party meetings since January. He's made himself available in small sessions, personal sessions. And has even taken 30-minute phone call from a stranger before I became engaged in this curiosity. So I do have to offer that up as our employee, that he has been remarkably available. But what I'd like to turn to is the topic of Benghazi. What difference, at this point, does it make? That's a question that with which we're all familiar. We know that Hillary Clinton asked that question in response to a question from Ron Johnson. And while I think she had it right with regard to her desire that we get to the bottom of this, I think she had it wrong in terms of what difference does it make. What happens at Benghazi really is important, and it does make a difference. This is but one element that we'll talk about tonight, and what I'd like you to do is put your Imagineering hats on for a minute and imagine that this wall behind me is a dike or a large wall. And behind that large wall is a huge reservoir of water. Over here is a hole in that wall called Benghazi, and it's beginning to leak. That wall is actually to our rule of law. It is based upon the Constitution. Benghazi begins to be one of the holes in that wall. Several others are going to be discussed. I would offer that something like NSA, maybe another challenge, another hole, another leak in that wall. Can any of you offer to me another hole that you see in that wall? What else? Eric Holder, IRS, what else? There's a lot of holes in that wall. That means that our rule of law, our Constitution, is being assailed from all directions. I'm not suggesting that it's by Pete Sessions. We know that it's Holder. We know that it's Hillary. We know that it's the IRS. In fact, it's largely the executive branch of the government that is attacking that wall. I will draw a link between the wall and the congressman in just a moment. I would suggest that the wall is weakening. I would suggest that our rule of law is weakening. And if we think about what the consequence of that could be, if the executive branch becomes too dominating, too tyrannical, too dominating, we the people are going to lose our authority. Okay, I'm doing the Benghazi piece, very complicated, lots of moving parts, lots of confusion being offered by the administration and their friends in the media. But it really does boil down to this rule of law. Let's take a look at what some of the problems have been. This really is an issue more than just our desire to find justice for those 4 Americans that were killed. And frankly, a lot of the information about Benghazi may not be something that we as American citizens, private citizens, should know or need to know. But what we've discovered in the process is that the big Benghazi hole is surrounded by lots of other little holes that have been, in my estimation, lies. Where we begin to not believe our government. For instance, Susan Rice, 5 programs, 1 day, never been done before. She lied. It's been proven that she lied. The FBI goes to Benghazi. We're going to find out, get to the bottom of this. We're going to scour the embassy and the consulate. 2 weeks later, members of the press go out there and they find the ambassador's diary, How do you miss that? Are there 400 SAM missiles that were involved in a weapons trade? I think so, but I'm not sure. But are we being lied to or deceived or being misled about that? Or were there 20,000 other missiles that are missing? That's popped up. Oh, and the 33 CIA agents that are now, we're told, being kept under wraps. Where are they? Why the deceit? Why the misdirection? Oh, and I forgot, Hillary, Mullen. I say it's lies. My friend, Mr. Ramsland, corrects me and says it's perjury. Yes, it is perjury. There are consequences to lying to congressional committees. There's another chink in the wall because nobody's doing anything about the lies. What we've learned that I think we can call facts is that there were empowered 5 panels, 5 committees. April 23rd, they released a 40-page document called the Interim Progress Report, members of the House Republican Conference, events surrounding Benghazi. Committee on Armed Services, Foreign Affairs, Judiciary, Oversight and Government Reform, and then the Select Committee on Intelligence. That's a lot of horsepower. And I have to believe those folks are citizens like we are. They went to government the same reasons that I think we would all aspire to serve. I'd like to think that most of those folks are striving for the truth. What they told us, just to bring everybody up to speed so we're all on the same page, 3 things. Number 1, Hillary Clinton lied. Wait a minute, that sounds like hyperbole on my part. Let me read what they said. Reduction of security levels prior to the attacks in Benghazi were approved at the highest levels of the State Department, up to and including Secretary Clinton. This fact contradicts, I think that's a euphemism, contradicts her testimony before the House Foreign Affairs Committee, January 23, 2012. Number 2, in the days following the attacks, the White House, another part of the executive branch, the State Department, executive branch, altered accurate talking points drafted by the intelligence community in order to protect the State Department. Another lie, another leak in our wall. Thirdly, contrary to administration rhetoric, the talking points were not edited to protect classified information. Concern for classified information is never mentioned in email traffic among senior administration officials. More lies. More holes in our rule of law. So given these lies and given this contempt, why is it nothing's being done? If Congressman Sessions was here, I would ask him that, but he's not. And that's frustrating. As an employee, not gonna do too well on the review. The second thing we know is that in January, Congressman Frank Wolf, through House Resolution 36, offered up that we should have a select committee, 1 committee, not 5, to pursue this with more sharper focus. That sounds good. Sounds like government's getting behind it, going to make something happen. After this report issued on the 23rd. A month later, Congressman Sessions sent out a letter with regard to his opinion on this document and the request from many people that we have this select committee that, oh, by the way, is now being supported by 1,000 special ops vets, 168 Republicans in the House. And Congressman Sessions told us in May that this special committee would, A, cost money to operate for this document, and two, that the people who would need to be on that committee would need to get top security clearance and that might be inconvenient. I would suggest for the $2 million that he believes it will take, let's take it out of the foreign aid to Libya. Okay, so that's kind of where we are, and if Pete were here, I want to say, Pete, we've got 1,000 special ops vets. We have 168 members of the House who are requesting that you, the head of the Rules Committee, who has control over the ability to release this resolution for a vote, that you would do so. I would ask Pete, what's going on, Pete? Or can we do something with that? And because he is the chairman, it is only he who can let this out of committee. And the reason that it is important that the congressman is here tonight is that we need him to hear our concerns. It's not just for me to ask the question, it's for the nearly 200 of you, if you're as concerned as I am, to say, yeah, Pete, tell me why it's not being released. So in light of the continued perjury from the executive branch, and number two, because of the 168 members of Pete's Republican Party and 1,000 special op vets, we want to know, Pete, why are you holding the bill? And number two, what do we need to do? What do you need to do? At what point do you need to arrive so that you will allow that resolution out of the Rules Committee? I would close by saying that Benghazi has been a gaping wound for 1 year. Or we could liken it to the hole in that wall. And I suggest to you that it really does make a difference. Thanks. Let's take some questions.
Sure, why not?
Yes, sir.
We have a mic if you would like.
Yeah, that would be helpful if you want to line up behind the mic.
That way everybody can hear you.
Chase people around. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Michael Chu, and I'm with Activists for Truth. And I want to know how we can really go about getting some serious issues resolved for us, the Benghazi situation. Because we have a lot of people that's trying to do all we can to get this out, get the media on it. It's because we feel as though if you put it out there and you come together and seriously ask some questions, and seriously get some people behind you, we can get some questions answered to get this resolved.
Sure. I'd like to defer to perhaps one of these other gentlemen, since you've heard quite enough from me.
I think the way to get this thing rolling is with a select committee. I mean, the fact of the matter is you've got 5 committees that don't coordinate with each other, don't talk to each other, and aren't even aware of what each other is doing until they finally get ready to put the paper together, and by then the hearings are all done. Plus the fact these committees have lots of other things on their plate. So the fact of the matter is, maybe they can spend a little time on Tuesday thinking about it, and it may be a week and Thursday later before they can even return to it, because they've got lots of other things. A select committee would be able to focus directly. It would be able to subpoena people. It would be able to compel witnesses. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it can hold them in contempt